We are going live, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hello and welcome to our next episode of Good Morning Madness. In our virtual studio here today, we've got the kings of LinkedIn in the house, some familiar faces here. The defending video champion, the video marketing maverick of Miami, Mr. Jonathan Palmar is in the house, the defending champion. And across from him, we've got the man trying to take his title this year. J Ray is in the building.
Sorry, guys. I got to knock that out.
Awesome. So it looks like we have a successful start to this show. Thank you guys for trooping through here. Just a couple housekeeping details regarding the format and the setup here. Still haven't got LinkedIn Live, so anybody that got connections on there, hook us up. We'll continuously evolve, but for now, the YouTube's working. Thank you all for jumping in here. If there's any tech issues, audio issues, let us know in the chat. We're keeping track of everything. Want to keep this super engaging. Essentially, we're here for you guys. We've got these entertaining guys here, lots of education, lots of insights, but at the end of the day, we're here for you. So feel free to hop in, hop out. And yeah, just wanted to make sure I gave a sincere thank you all across the board. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Justin, and everybody in the chat. And we've got Victor. Anybody that needs help throughout the show, reach out to Victor. He'll gladly set you up with anything. So yeah, we've got a pretty clear-cut show. We're going to hop into the power of storytelling. This is going to be a really interesting topic because we all are on different ends of the spectrum here. And then that's going to lead into personal branding. So I think we're going to have lots of insights here. There's lots of opinions for what's right, what's wrong. There's no official right way to do it. So without further ado, welcome to Good Morning Madness. We're going to go ahead and hop into our first subject with a fancy little intro. Storytelling strategy. Boom! So what I would love to hear from you guys is, we understand, like us as individuals, we understand how powerful storytelling is. It's a huge part of us as humans. So thumbs have given us the ability to hang on, but stories, in a way, have really given us the reason to hang on as humans, as people in this world, as culture evolves and develops. Storytelling is absolutely huge for personal people, for persons, and for professional companies. What have you guys seen in these last couple years in the realm of personal branding as successful storytelling strategies? I think that would be an interesting place to start. I know, John, you've mentioned in some of our previous episodes how critical the hero's journey is, and that arc that we see over and over. I'm curious where exactly you guys see this being done right and where you see it being done wrong.
Well, my opinion is that as we are trying to brand ourselves, for me, the key has been, don't make yourself the hero of the story in your content. If you make the content about you, there won't be an audience to view it. You can make the content relatable, but you have to understand that on a place like LinkedIn, maybe it's a little bit different than other forms of social media, but on LinkedIn, where people are looking for something, they're looking to network, they're looking for advice, they're looking for value. If you focus the attention on yourself and your personal story, it's not going to resonate. So the way that I view it is, considering that today is May 4th, May the 4th be with you, Star Wars, I look at us, the storytellers, as like an Obi-Wan Kenobi or a Yoda. We are the ones that are guiding people on a path. We're guiding the Luke Skywalker, or in that sense, our clients or our viewers. Those are the Luke Skywalkers. It's not about our story. It's about guiding them as they go on their journeys. So I found that the most important and impactful way of developing content and creating storytelling in your content is doing that. Don't make it about you. Make it about guiding somebody through their journey.
Hell yeah. No, I've noticed a similar pivot. When we get into personal branding, I think that theme definitely comes back up. Justin, I'm curious in your realm, because you're coming from minimal marketing experience, and
Right.
you're hopping into this world of personal branding and storytelling, essentially, whether you're aware of it or not, and seem to be doing super well so far. In your experience, have you been following? Did you see somebody ahead of time that you were kind of implementing and following a strategy, or are you just winging it over there and it seems to be working out?
A little bit of everything. I mean, I read, but my background is sales. So in home sales, which is where I come from, it's about putting people in that situation before they even get there. They look for a house because there's a discomfort, whether it's too small of a house, whether they're in a bad area now. It used to be a good area. So when I walk them to the house, I'm making them vision their lives in that house. So same thing with the story. You've got to use things like, oh, can you see your Christmas tree in the corner there? Oh, that fireplace is where you're going to read your grandchildren's stories one day. They have to envision themselves in a better situation. I mean, we don't read, personal help's not a multi-billion-dollar industry for no reason. It's not called not personal help. Everybody wants to get better. Everybody wants to have a better version of themselves. Even in the house world, they want that better version. Same thing with LinkedIn. We want that better version of ourselves. We don't want our content just to sit stagnant. We want that better version of our content. So like Jonathan or Shay Robottom, I watch their content to see what are they doing. There's a few techniques in sales and in content that we try to pull out. I mean, for example, if you play sports, I can still smell the dew on the grass before football practice every single morning. And if I walk outside right now in the morning, I smell that dew on the grass, I'm immediately back in 7th grade football. And I can smell the grass. Same thing with stories. We're trying to pull those emotions out. So whether it's laughter, sexual desire, inspiration, hunger, visual pleasure, curiosity, you're trying to create those emotions while selling your story or creating that content. Now, obviously, y'all know that I like laughter. I try to create that laughter because that's what resonates with me. But all the points I just mentioned sort of help that storytelling mode, turn about. We're trying to get those emotions from the people watching our story.
No, and that definitely makes sense. Creating that visual story in the other person's mind. I think there's a few key pieces that you mentioned there. The biggest one was those trigger emotions. So a lot of times in branding, marketing, anything, if you can tap into those high value emotions that you were just mentioning, that nostalgia, that multi-sensory thing, with just your words, you're activating a lot more in somebody's mind than you would be able to do just with text or whatnot. So yeah, super glad you mentioned those points. What other pieces do you guys consider necessary to a story? I know we kind of see the overarching version. We all create a story, a simplified story in our head. Been around here almost 30 years, but the condensed story everybody else thinks of is obviously just snapshots of that larger story. What do you guys consider worthy of being part of a story? Is it challenges? Is it adversity? Is it, oh, I was struggling as a kid and did this? Or is it the actual success? Is that what makes the story? What do you guys think actually pulls people to a story or somebody's story?
It doesn't have to be overly complex. Like, I go back to one of the most popular TV shows of all time, Seinfeld. And what was Seinfeld about? What were they dealing with? These really like huge, controversial, topical, subjects? Were they dealing with things that were highly traumatic? Not necessarily. If you really go back and watch the episodes, the content was just incredibly, incredibly relatable. Most times, most days, people, when they turn to LinkedIn or they're on social media, they don't want anything too heavy. So you don't want whatever you're giving to people to be constantly heavy, because it's almost like when you put too much sugar in the lemonade. It's just like, it's too much. I can't even drink it. I love sugar. I love lemonade, but you put too much of one thing. It's too concentrated. I can't drink it, right? So the idea for me is, when it comes to developing content, make it as relatable as possible so that the person thinks to themselves, you know what? Yeah, I know exactly how this guy feels because I dealt with whatever the scenario was as well recently. And that is what's going to get people to engage in it. When it's something that they can relate to on such a deep level that they can, but it's not overly heavy. Because too heavy, it could be just as much of a turnoff.
No, that's a really critical point that you just mentioned, the relatability of the story. And that's been one of the things, at least from me, when I've been kind of in research mode, that I've noticed as the recurring theme, that relatability. Anybody's story that I resonated with as a role model or as a leader in like the professional space was because I envisioned a portion of myself in their story. Like, oh my God, I've been there before. That was what kicked off our conversations with Lewis Howes, Justin. That was like something, his story, I could replace two details and it's my story. So that exact relatability, I think, is what people resonate with. Now, the other end of that spectrum, which you were alluding to, Jonathan, is going all the way across the other deep end. So now this is almost borderline empathy abuse or sympathy abuse. And this is taking personal experiences or anything really traumatic or dramatic and just juicing it for all it's worth in a marketing or branding or business professional context. Do you think this is a solid strategy, J. Ray? Is this not a good... I understand the value of it. Like we just mentioned, people want to resonate with that story. But where's the line of, okay, well, that's like a bit much, or like this is clearly something you're doing as a strategy? Does it lose that authenticity when it goes too far the other way?
I'm going to try not to get fired up talking about this because...
And I'm going to try to fire you up.
No, please don't. I guess we're not on the radio, so I can say 4-letter words. But I just see way too much of it on LinkedIn right now. Like, I get it. I've told y'all before, I could talk about my brain tumor every single day and the odds I had to overcome to get it. And no matter what, I put a picture of myself with my head cut open and learning how to walk again, I'm going to get automatic views, regardless. The people would be dicks not to hit a like button on that because it's just, but you have to. Like, you almost feel like, it is a nice story. But I see people doing it every single day. Like, oh my goodness, I don't sing in front of public, but I'm going to post it in front of my thousands of people for y'all to see me sing, but I never do this. Or, something, for example, I see one guy, and this is going to sound terrible to me, he has a special needs daughter, but every single video he posted now of him doing something crazy with her, because it automatically gets 20,000 views, 1,000 likes. Like, I want to hear it. He has a project that sounds really, really cool. I want to hear about the project now. Like, I get it. That gets you views, and that gets you likes, but I'm tired of seeing people doing that over and over and over. Let's find out a little bit more about you, a little bit more about the story, a little bit just my weight loss journey. You see these all the time. I used to be 700 pounds, and now I'm 220 pounds. Look at me. And every single day we see it. Mm-hmm. The fitness journeys, the job journey, the the cancer journeys, the all the journeys. That just so many people are looking for that They want to act like JP. You said it perfect earlier. Pandering to their followers to get those automatic views. I saw someone just yesterday talking about, she wanted to be an influencer so bad, and then now Instagram influencers and Instagram this and this and that, they're all fake. They're setting a fake perception. They're fake this, fake that, fake that. And this is what she literally is, just like 3 weeks ago, was talking about how she's an influencer. Like, just where does the empathy train stop? I understand we all have to be empathetic now, but the empathy, the fake sympathy, the fake empathy, fake whatever has to stop. Like, it's the modern day version of a girl taking her shirt off and just doing a bikini picture. It's just for thirst. That's all it is.
So thirst.
I have another perspective on it. While I agree 100%, I view it a little bit differently. I view it as, there's two examples. One being, you see a homeless guy, maybe he's like missing a leg. He looks like he's down and out. Things are tough for him. But you see him every day, and he's in the same corner. Inevitably, and it's unfortunate, but he's going to start blending in with the scenery. Also, when you're listening to music on the radio and you hear the same song, the first time you love it. And then as you hear it every single day, it starts to drive you a bit insane. And when it comes to these people and the pandering that we see, it becomes very much the same as these two examples. When you see something over and over and over again, it loses the effect. And then when you have multiple people abusing it, like in the 90s, how many boy bands were there doing the same exact thing? At some point you get sick of it and you feel bad because a part of you says to yourself, okay, this guy went through this experience. I should feel bad for him. And now you hate them more because you're like, I should feel guilty. I don't feel guilty. Now I hate you more. Now I'm less inclined to react to whatever you're creating. And I just find that's how it is. So I think that the best way, if you're one of these people that are doing this, I understand why you're doing it. It's popular. It gets hits. And isn't that what we're all trying to accomplish? But I would diversify my content so that all my messaging is not behind that one thing, because once you put yourself in a box, it's very hard to get out of it.
Huge.
And Travis, hold on 1 second. In saying that, JP makes a good point because you nailed it. And right now, I'm in a box. I'm in a funny guy box. Someone the other day also just asked me, well, can you transition from funny to doing something serious to make money? This was a follower of mine. And the fact is, I do make money from this, not from my content, but from prospecting to get it. However, Jonathan said it before, I've put myself in a little box because I've gone from making some serious, some funny to making all funny. And now as a business person, if you see me though, I'm going to get labeled, well, he can only do funny videos. What is he showing in the long run? So even the storytelling, being in that box, trying to make sure you're not defining yourself as one specific story. Being able to adapt to all stories, whether it's the pandering story, whether it's the hero story, whether it's the funny story. Not trying to just stick yourself into one specific story, because that's not going to work for every client we come across.
No, it's definitely always going to be evolving. All of our stories are always changing. And I think, to tie things up in a bow here for this storytelling, which will flip perfectly into personal branding, it looks like this diversity, this content diversity that you're mentioning, John, is a huge piece of the puzzle. And I've done this a lot on the client side in the context of a content recipe or a content formula. So you basically want to create a social media recipe of, for example, Jonathan's would be like 50% funny and entertaining, 25% really valuable, like personal insights, 25% like high authority marketing and opinion. That's like kind of what I see as his recipe. Now you can take that recipe and scale it to volume. Now when and if you need to start posting every day and you're ready to, like, for that level of volume, you can keep that recipe, amplify the volume, and now you've kind of got that balance of person. Now obviously you've got to tweak and play with the recipe of okay, I went way too personal this month. I'm going to go more professional next month. Stuff like that, I think, will be really huge pieces to help you utilize all the pieces of the spectrum in that storytelling spectrum, but without boxing yourself into a corner. Because I think that's a really, really critical point, Justin. I'm sure a lot of people here in the chat might be in similar situations. So yeah, anybody in here that has felt like that or been in similar situations, feel free to drop any questions in the chat or just a simple "I feel ya." But we'll go ahead and transition from storytelling into personal branding, which is a lot of times one and the same. So I'm gonna drop another fancy little transition here for personal branding. Looks a lot cooler on the video side, guys. You don't get to see the transition, but the audience is mesmerized right now.
Oh, I haven't seen it up. I'm watching it. Hold on.
Oh, great. Pretty smooth-ish transition into personal branding. Our personal branding is essentially our story. So what pieces of our story do we share? Is it everything? Is it just the hardships? I know that's one of the things I've always kind of gone into, but my personal branding, as I'm trying to figure it out this year, I feel like I don't have a concise and tight brand that people recognize because I have such a wide and diverse experience. Kind of the opposite problem of yours, Justin, of people envisioning it. I have such a super wide spectrum that I feel like I don't have a clear branding like core. Is that something you guys have struggled with previously, or anybody in the chat? Is that something that you guys have been through and found a solution? This is more of a selfish, open-ended question because I feel like everybody else has got this super tight like personal branding and story attached to it, and being stretched so thin. I'm curious, what are the most critical elements that you care about as a personal brand in like a professional context?
This is not going to sound nice, but go with it.
Yeah, go for it. That's what we're here for.
People do not care about you. People don't care about you. So allow that, instead of viewing it as a negative, allow that to free you. Allow that to be your freedom, because the reality is that people only want to see how the relationship with you will benefit them. Let's be 100% honest. I remember I was having this conversation with my wife, and I was like, listen, I know exactly why I'm with you. You know exactly why you're with me. And like, let's just make that clear. You know, it's very much, you know, we're selfish. We want to get something specific out of every relationship that we have. So it's the same when it comes to social media. It's the same when it comes to developing content. When it comes to that, I would make it less personalized. You can share your experiences as long as, like I said, they're relatable. But in the end, nobody really cares about you specifically. Nobody cares about your process or anything. So don't get too romantic with yourself. Get romantic with the relationship with the people. You know, one of the reasons why I called my video today "People versus the Algorithm" is because despite it's my experiences, I recognize the fact that it's everybody's experience. So, you know, just try and not make it about you, because in the end, people just don't care.
Yeah, it's a huge point and recurring theme throughout any and every professional subject of flip that script and make it all about the consumer, the client, the customer, the value. And ironically, as you were mentioning that out loud, that was, I think, the biggest pivot point I've had from previous branding into this community, and ironically has been the most successful right out the gate, because that was the pivot point I've had from previous brands. Was it is so excellent, it is so great, but when you flip the script, and now I'm here for you, Justin, and Jonathan, when he's back, to give you like an outlet to tap into that unfulfilled potential. That's what I'm starting to see, and so many awesome people in this community fit that exact same category of wanting to level up, and that's sort of where I'm starting to find my rhythm in the producer side of letting that light shine on individuals, and then in turn, obviously, yeah, a portion of it comes back on you. But excellent point. Heard it over and over in the professional context. I think I really have romanticized the marketing and the branding of anything and everything. So always awesome to hear that. Will had mentioned, honestly, the simplest strategy of all, just post being your authentic self. Super simple, super cliche, super cheesy, but very often this tends to be one of the most successful strategies. So, J. Ray, in your world, you've got you've had success here from transferring from LinkedIn to real world revenue. Is
Right.
that something you've attributed to your branding, your story, your content, or is that something like it's just pure relationships that you've worked on for a while?
Pure relationships.
Figured.
This is the one thing I'm trying to figure out through this is how can I find that thin line of being able to advertise business without pissing off people while at the same time trying to stay true to myself. With my roofing company, guess what? Everybody knows a roofer. It's hard to relate and do a roofing video because we've all seen it. If you live anywhere in the Midwest, you have hailstorms. And when storms come out, roofers come out and they door knock you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Well, how can we make a video about that? And how does that translate? So my whole philosophy is I'm not a salesperson. I used to say, well, I'm a sales professional because I view myself as a true professional. It's 2020. Selling is not involved now. It's relationships and how you handle those relationships. So I like to say I sell without selling. And so from my videos, now do I target specific people? Yes. I target realtors. I target multifamily investors. I target all these commercial people. So eventually they'll start to watch my content. If they like it, guess what? They're going to DM me. They're going to say, oh, man, that's effing great. That's fantastic, blah, blah, blah. And eventually they're going to ask, oh, wait, I read your headline. I don't know what you do. And that's right. when they ask me what I do, that's when I tell them what I do. And they're like, oh, you're a roofing? We have apartment complexes. Well, no crap. Like, that's why, so it's selfish, but at the same time being selfless. So it's trying to find that thin line without being the jerk and being over the top and just being too much. But I do want to find it. I want to be more specific with some of my videos. So if that requires me posting twice a day to get the content where someone can see, oh, he's still himself. Okay, wait, this is for work, obviously. I still want to find that line.
No, that definitely makes sense.
One strategy that I recommend to people is let your content be the net, and let your profile or your website be the call to action. Let that be the one that advertises the services that you provide. Let that be your landing page, where that's when people say, okay, this is what he does. It has a free consultation. I'll reach out to them. That's what your page is for. Your content should be outreach. Your content should be trying to get people to go back to your profile page so that they can see the services that you provide. So realistically speaking, you could have content in anything. As long as they come back to your profile page, as long as it is brutally clear what is on your profile page, then people will reach out to you.
Excellent. No, I think we're zeroing in on it real quick. And Sarah dropped another piece of the puzzle that resonates exactly with that and simplified this conversation. Your brand is how you serve, what you do for your audience, and how you do it. If you've got that covered, then I think your branding job is done right. So yeah, thanks for dropping that in there, Sarah. Definitely fits for this exact theme. And I think, Stephen Lenz hopped in here. Stephen Rachel, we got the gang in here. Thank you guys for hopping in here as well. Feel free to drop any questions as we're approaching the midway 30-minute mark here. We'll be transitioning out of here. But in your opinion, who do you guys think, Justin and Jonathan, who do you guys think is doing the personal brand thing right? With everything we've mentioned about flipping it, focusing on your audience, focusing on serving, who do you think right now is crushing it in this category?
There's a guy. He's from Texas. His name's Justin Reynolds. No, I had to say that.
There we go.
No, hey, come on now. Jonathan, you're killing it. Not because you're on the call. You're killing it, man. You make great content. It's delivered well. It hits home. Shay's killing it. There's so many people that are killing it that I don't even know of either, because I'm just not interested in their type stuff. Quentin Looms, he's doing well. I'm just not into his stuff. But you can tell he has his own little niche market that he is just killing it, and so I can't say, who the other ones. I stick to the people that have a little bit more of a humorous side, because that's what resonates with me. But there's like Hugo with his time management. I mean, he's doing well. People resonate with that. So I think it's just about finding, these are the ones I find, like Jonathan, Shay, they speak my love language. They speak, we have the same spirit animal probably. So I resonate with them. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, obviously, all the individuals you mentioned, yourself included. But I hate to say it. I hate to say it because I trash him at times. But Gary Vaynerchuk is still the best at it, because I think that if you interview everybody on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and you ask them who was the one person that inspired me to start developing content, somewhere down the line, they're going to say Gary V. And if they don't say Gary V, the person that inspired them to do it probably got inspired by Gary V.
I'm raising my hand because I'm guilty, because Gary V is in there a little bit.
Yep.
And it's not that it's not that there's anything particularly special about his content or what he says. It's about the fact that he's audacious, he's courageous, and he's willing to put in the work. And, after that, anybody can respect that, because everybody understands effort. And what I've found is that the more complex that I make my videos, the more effort I put into my content, the more it translates into people following. So I think that there is some type of parallel with that as well.
Yeah, it seems like jumping through the chat here, and myself included, Gary V. There's our modern marketing strategies. Love him or hate him, he's doing something right. So I think that was an excellent synopsis to clean up the personal branding. I think the biggest takeaway for me was, remember to flip that script. That was an excellent moment. I'm always preaching to others, but sometimes you need it for yourself. So flip the script, get as empathetic as possible, and try to craft your personal brand from the other person's direction. And I think we will have a lot more success. Follow Gary V, apparently, is the summary lesson of the day. But we did make it through the 30-minute mark, which means we officially had a successful show, but I'm going to convert us into the bonus round. Dun, 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 dun. Boom. We'll have audio for those soon so that it doesn't have to be manual radio voice transitions.
It has a very dude perfect feeling to these slides.
So we are in the bonus round. That means we technically had a successful show without it completely going off the rails. But we're going to open up here. We got some excellent questions to hop into. Anybody in the chat, let's go ahead and open it up. At least drop a hi, drop a question, drop anything you want to chat about. But we got a question here from Lee directed at you, J. Ray. Are you willing to take a stab at more serious topics to break out of the humor box?
Oh, definitely.
What topics do you want to explore in that realm of being, or the opposite, chat? What topics do you want to see J. Ray explore in some of his LinkedIn content and videos, getting a little more serious? Because this man is brilliant. He's got a brilliant mind, brilliant dad, brilliant in so many categories, and I think a lot of people can learn from him in so many more ways than Justin Exotic has brought us, and I mean that in the most beautiful way possible, because I'm glad that we have all connected from moments like this and videos like that. So,
well, I think I'm first and foremost going to talk about college not being necessary. I was lucky enough to play basketball in college and had my school paid for. My brother and sister, on the other hand, were not. They're still paying off their student loans today. We're almost 40 years old, and they're still paying student loans. One's a teacher, one's a firefighter. Was college necessary? Yes, for my sister, and it was. She's a teacher. She needs college. My brother, he's a firefighter. It's not necessary. Talk about wasted money. Why? And so, I think it's one of those things and I've told my kids, y'all don't have to go to college, which goes against everything my parents ever told me and my brother and sister. Because with our phones in our hand, we literally have the world in our hand now. That wasn't available even 20 years ago. It certainly wasn't available 40 years ago. And so most classes, you can become an expert by taking a class online with a lot of the niche topics. Yes, being a doctor, being an attorney, there are certain things that college is necessary for. However, I have more roofers that work for me that make $400,000 a year that barely have a GED. And that's called, Gary B, oh God, hustle. I mean, it's just, I don't want to talk about hustling, and that's just blue collar workers. Can you imagine they're paying back student loans? We have roofers that have degrees as well, but why? What do they need that degree for? And so I think that's going to be one of the first. It's a hot button with me because I know people are sort of fired up about it. We have the pro college people versus the non-pro, but with technology like it is now, with information like it is now, I just don't think college is worth it. So I think that's going to be one of the first things I talk about. And then it's going to be gay marriage. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
what would so I
maybe throw some politics in there?
No, I don't want to pull off of the. I completely agree. I think there's a lot of context to unpack in the context of college and degrees and that whole realm. But I'm curious to know. We got a question from Victor. What class would you teach, or what skills would you teach to prepare your kids or any kids for this social world that you're mentioning?
What I would teach is, and this is what I'm recognizing now, and it's like to just kind of like make it a little more serious for a moment, is the depression that comes with this. There is, when you really start to succeed on it, and I'm not trying to brag, but when you're at the point that you're receiving, the better side of 100 messages a day, and people like your content or they feel inspired by your content, it puts extreme pressure on you to keep it up. They say that it's, the difficult part is making it, but it's significantly more difficult to maintain it, because now, the high of getting 600, 700, 800 likes, you have to consistently top it. And if you can't top it and you can't continue to improve, you're going to regress. So you have to get more complex. You have to get better. You have to create something innovative, continuously innovative content. And there is a ton of pressure that comes with that, on top of the fact that you're receiving all these messages. So it's like the noise never goes away. You can be in a silent house, you could be in quarantine, but your brain has so much noise because there's people consistently asking you questions and people consistently wanting your feedback on an idea or collaborating or whatever it is. It's like you can't shut off the noise in your head ever. And I just find that it's created this really interesting depression that I'm really struggling with, like, every day. It's definitely there.
No, Travis, before you start, hold on one second. I want to go back to the original subject, because that depression, that anxiety, certainly real. Like, I get anxiety if I haven't posted and I didn't make my video the day before, and I have to get something that hasn't been on for 2 days. I literally feel my heart sort of elevated all day. Wow. But I think when it comes to social skills and digital skills, I think one thing that needs to be taught now is going back to how it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even before then. And Dale Carnegie has a book about it, How to Win Friends and Influence People, or I think that's what it's called. It's how to talk to people. It's how to communicate, because, in high school, I feel like I didn't start getting girls until college. Why? Because I realized all of a sudden it wasn't about just the way you looked or performed, it's how you talked. And same thing with people. People are forgetting how to communicate because it's all digital, it's all social, it's all keyboard cowboys. I have a policy at the roofing company. If you can't send it in your subject line, if the message is too long, we don't need to talk about it. So I don't want to read a long email. Just tell me what you need in the subject line so we can move on and get other things done. And same thing with since everything's digital, I think we need to digress back into communication techniques and how to talk to people one-on-one. And whether it's digital, us talking via Zoom or us using Skype or whatever it may be, or face-to-face, while enhancing your digital skills, your digital footprint. But you can't forget the how to just talk to people, how to communicate, how to read body language, how to, use everything. And once again, it goes into storytelling, it goes into branding. But when you're meeting those people, still how to convey your message while actually talking person to person.
Yeah, that was huge, J. Ray. Looks like you were lighting up the chat there. There was a lot of Dale Carnegie mentions there from Steven, Lee, Will as well, Jim as well. So we've got, everything you guys are mentioning is apparently resonating. So what we're seeing here is it's boiling down to communication and human relationships. What a surprise. Here we are again. So what I'm really seeing is focus on relationship building and communication skills, whether that's in the digital era, more of like in-person communication. That's where I struggled for a long time. Was I can do fine in digital realm, keyboard warrior stuff and sending gifts and stuff, but I did awful the moment, like it was in front of a mic or in front of a stage, like everything locked up and was gone. And eventually I broke through that with improv comedy. That was one of the things that helped me break that down and get to a more sociable level. Other people have done it with Toastmasters, or you're just a naturally charismatic guy like these dudes. There's all kinds of excellent ways you can level up those communication skills, but the theme I'm seeing here is, at the end of the day, it's all about people. Find more ways to help people and connect with people, and the rest seems like it'll fall into place. So let's see if we got any more questions here in the chat. Emotional connections, creating personal perception of others. So this was an important thing. Comment from Chase. People don't really care who you are, back where Jonathan was saying, but they remember how you make them feel. This is, I think, one of the huge pieces that you were just mentioning, J. Ray, of like, it doesn't matter exactly what you say. It's more about the ability to hop into that conversation and make somebody feel good. That seems a lot more valuable than saying the perfect words or the right words. Have you guys discovered anything in the category of just making people feel good? Do you have any go-to moves or questions or stuff like that in that realm?
When I was starting out, what I found was very effective is, if you're lucky, somebody comments. If you're really lucky, somebody leaves a thoughtful comment. And when I was trying to develop my following in the beginning, I would really take the time to read every single word of whatever the post, article, or video was, and leave a very thoughtful comment. Because I always viewed it from, this individual put X amount of time into this post. The least that I can do is show my appreciation by leaving as thoughtful of a comment as possible. And now that I'm receiving a lot more engagement myself, I haven't stopped that practice. I still, every time somebody, sends me, leaves a comment, I leave a thoughtful response for most of them. Because I feel like, likewise, when somebody's commenting on your content, the least that I can do is take the time to read it and leave something thoughtful.
Huge. I think that's a huge piece, especially when you play that empathy card and you imagine situations where imagine situations where you felt good and then make note of it. And I'm sure those situations fit that exact category. Steven mentioned a Star Wars story. Is there any way we could put a good spin on a Star Wars story that makes it relatable? And I'm only familiar with the OG Star Wars, so I only know the most cliche storyline of Luke's storyline, but at least the piece that resonates for me in the Star Wars context is the kind of the average Joe, the perception that he's kind of a nobody at the beginning, because I think that's where we all start. Like every celebrity you've imagined, all these power authority figures, Gary Vee, Shay, like they're humans underneath their skin. And we don't realize that until we have those points of resonating. And I think that was one of the biggest pieces of Star Wars that stuck out to me was Luke doesn't even realize the entire time that he's able to cultivate to that level, and how much of it is internal and mental and psychological. That's the biggest piece I've seen in the Star Wars realm, is that makes it relatable, is anybody can do this. It's just a matter of finding the skills, finding what works for you, building those relationships consistently over and over and over and over for years, and then you're an overnight success. Woo, wow, weird how that works out. And
But,
yeah.
To add to that, a
Perfect.
piece of content that always works is the Star Wars post. My post today was a Star Wars post. And what do I mean by that? Man versus machine. You know, in Star Wars, if you remember, you have like the Rebel Alliance and you have what's called the Empire. And in the Empire, everything's mechanical. Darth Vader's a machine. The types of when you see the actual Death Star inside, everything is so clean, everything is so robotic. And then think about it, Tatooine, when they're Naboo, when anytime that the heroes are in a scene, typically their homeland is natural, where everything on the bad guy's side is machine based, including the biggest villain, right?
Yep.
So anytime that you take the stance of man versus machine, you're gonna have a winner. So in my case, where I did a video about myself and us versus the algorithm, that's a Star Wars post. Anytime you do a piece of content where we're basically saying, this is the man, this is the machine that's trying to control us, you're gonna have success.
I love it. I didn't think we'd be able to spin that one into two legit answers. But no, that's excellent. It's super powerful in visual storytelling. You can do it with any type of text storytelling too, if you need to set that tone. But that's a really huge piece, I think, of the puzzle. So we mentioned one thing last week. We got a community challenge going on. I would love to check in on the chat and anybody in here that participated. I know I see a few that I know for sure did. But what we did last week was we encouraged you to amplify your outward engagement to another level. So this was with video messages, voice messages, and a ton of comments. So I know that was the biggest thing that made a difference in my LinkedIn game. I know it's resonated with both of these guys, and I know people like Steven Lenz and others in the chat have just shot to the moon with this outward engagement strategy. So I'm curious if anybody that participated in it would love to hear your results, how things have been going, if you had any positive benefits. I know I did. Had a couple high-level meetings that I'm pretty sure wouldn't have happened without video message. So yeah, I think I would love to hear your guys' experience and any future things that could potentially work, do more of, do less of. Just curious to hear any feedback you guys might have had with outward engagement.
Now, Travis, I saw your name all over LinkedIn this week, so very well done. Like every single time I was scrolling through my feed, I could see your noticeable efforts going into outward engagement. No, it's good. I mean,
yeah,
I saw it everywhere, so that's just it's sticking out. So I thought it was very, 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 very good. So.
Nope. Gotta walk the walk. If I'm challenging everybody else to do it, because I know if you did do it, I know your account is doing at least 50% better this week. If you did follow through, if you didn't, oh well, join the next challenge. We'll go ahead and figure that out. But Rebecca said she tested the voice messages and went really well. I actually got one of those. Was super awesome. So if you don't have the ability to jump all the way to video, go ahead and at least give the voice messages a shot. They're super, super, super easy to do. So if you didn't get to the video, at least try those. I'm sure many people will agree with it being well worth it in the long run. In your guys' experience, what has been your best engagement strategy? Do you have any strategy at all? Do you just scroll through the feed? Do you guys do you go to specific pages? How do you guys do your outward engagement? Is there any type of strategy behind it, or are you just kind of jumping on your phone whenever you got time?
For me, there is. So when I go through the strategy, yes, I see my normal people that I'm going to engage with regardless. And then I take a page from Jonathan Palmar's strategy and try to go to find the people that aren't doing as well on LinkedIn. And I really try to engage with them. If they have 3 people liking them, and sometimes their stuff's really good. It's just not getting any traction. I try to seek out those pages and give love to those people. And so sometimes that's through DMs. If I notice I get a DM or a new connection, and I'm constantly sending out connection requests too. For anybody that's thinking that we don't, I send out connection requests a crap ton each day. And I try to, when I connect with those people, I go immediately to their page and see how they're doing, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And I try to give them love. And if I can find pages or posts that are actually very good, I try to give a very thought out comment and some love to it. And also a couple of endorsements. Because like I said, there's some people on there that are so much more talented than us that aren't getting love for some reason. And I just, maybe they're just not consistent with it. Maybe they're just not doing it enough. But there's some really, really talented people that need more love. So I try to seek out those people individually.
Interesting. Yeah, that's probably super effective. Playing the empathy card again. We've all been there. I remember my first week in January posting a couple times, and it just felt like pissing in the wind, just went nowhere, did nothing. And the first couple times you get somebody that hunts and finds it somehow, I don't know how they found the first one, it just feels special. So I'm sure, yeah, that the contrast of standing out for those people that have low engagement currently, they'll remember it in the long run, I'm sure.
And to add to that, I have this innovative idea. I have a reverse vision board. As opposed to having a vision board of all the success I want to have, I have a vision board that is full of comments that I made to myself, comments that I received from other people, my first video, things like that remind me to not only stay humble, but remember why I'm doing this. And instead of focusing all my attention on where I want to be, I think it's important to remember where you were. And that really helps keep you humble and keep everything in perspective.
No, that's a huge point. I think a lot of people will resonate here. So I think we got a few more questions. Lee was mentioning in the context of video messaging, and I'm also curious about this as well. When you receive a video message, and this is to everybody in the chat as well, do you feel like, do you have any hesitation or fear of opening it, whether it's for viruses, for slowing down your computer or anything? Lee mentioned a good point, kind of in the similar vein of opening a sketchy attachment from an email. Does anybody else in the chat have that same hesitation or feeling when you receive a video message? Because I hadn't thought about that, but I also was using, I think a Vidyard extension that shows you, very obviously it's not like a download. But I'm curious, if other people are you're sending out nice videos and they're scared to open them, might not be as effective as we thought it was. Anybody else fearful of opening videos? I'm curious if that's a single problem or a universal thing.
My only gripe with video messages is they have a specific time and place where I can actually open them. So, for example, if you're at work or something like that, you really can't open it unless you got like your headphones in, or you're sitting down and you're in a quiet place where you can actually consume whatever it is. So sometimes those types of messages actually get lost for me because they just fall behind, and then I'll get new messages and I'll kind of forget that I got that video message. So I think, what would be helpful is before you send that video message, just give like a little bit of an intro of what it's about, because I'm more inclined to see that and say, okay, well, now I know what I'm opening, as opposed to it'll be more top of mind than if somebody just sends a video and then I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I may or may not be able to respond to it in that moment.
Sure. Yeah. And Will mentioned, what did he just mention? The context. Oh, no, that was Steve and Rachel. The context of where this message is being sent. So if it's your first outreach ever versus somebody you've communicated with back and forth, and now you're sending them a message, maybe that's going to be better received. So great point, Stephen, to also keep that context in mind.
And I'm on the opposite foot.
Okay.
I like sending them right away because it's. I remember the first time I got one, and I got one from a guy named Marcus Chan. That was the first time. He's a sales guy. He's on there. Super great personality, great voice. And when he said my name and he said what I did in my profile, it literally hit home. Like I felt like an immediate connection. And so to my thing is, if I get a connection request and in the same business, now do I send them to everybody? No, I do not send video message to everybody. But if they're in the business that I want to be in, if they own multifamily units or anything else like that, I send them a personal video message from wherever I'm at. That doesn't matter if it's at the gym, it's at the restaurant, it's anywhere. Because I'll shoot them that message. Immediately they feel like they just got to know me a little more personally. I don't care if my kids are around. Because they see me, they see who I am, they know that I'm a real person on this side of the phone. And I'm not selling anything. I'm just saying, hey, Marcus, nice to meet you. Thanks for connecting with me. I see it. And I mentioned something they do on their profile. Hopefully I see more of your content in the future. Nothing saying, hey, email me back. Nothing messaging me back. Let's schedule a call. None of those things. More just, hey, this is me. Thanks for reaching out. And look forward to seeing your content on LinkedIn. And that just sort of drives home immediately. So the video, I don't mind getting any message, but video message still gives me like a little giddy, like, yeah, this is cool. Like they're a real person. Now, some people, they don't need to be on camera. Like some people, at least work on some angles or something. Like, it's a little distracting when you get some of these. But I mean, the CEO of BombBomb the other day, I literally sent him a video message shirtless at my pool in the backyard. It was probably inappropriate, but it was more just to show the power of what he created. BombBomb's a video service that a lot of home builders use to send messages in video response to emails. But I wanted it to be as raw as personal, showing how much that changed business. And now we've kept a dialogue of probably 40 messages back and forth now.
Huge.
Because he even said, he goes, I can't believe you just sent me a shirtless video message.
You're like, you created this. You created this. Oh, that's brilliant. No, I think this is a great note to end on. We're wrapping up here. It seems the summary is, as usual, again and again, be a decent human being. Learn to communicate, build relationships. So to tie things up for today, we've had really excellent conversations, but to challenge you guys, your viewers, we essentially went over personal branding and storytelling. And the sum game from that entire conversation was flip the script and focus on your audience. So my challenge to you this week is to develop your brand and your story in one sentence, one or two sentences, and get as clear as possible about who you serve and what you do for them. I'm going to be doing the same. Hopefully you guys will too. I think that'll be hugely valuable for us to all share, and we'll all be on the same page as we grow this community. So again, a sincere thank you to both Justin, Jonathan, Victor behind the scenes, everybody in the chat. Thank you guys all so much. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and we'll see you in LinkedIn. Catch you next week.